Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the second episode of Morrowind Modding Interviews. I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and with me today is Danae.
Hey there.
Thank you for agreeing to this interview.
My pleasure.
We're going to start out with a few basic questions, and the first of which is, when did you first start playing Morrowind, and the Elder Scrolls in general?
Pretty much after the game came out. I did get quite obsessed with it, even managed to finish the main quest, then I stopped for a little while, and then I discovered mods, and then I never stopped really.
So you've been in the community for a pretty long while then?
Yeah, on and off, but always. I think that's the thing about Morrowind, you always come back to it.
Yeah, I would say that is very true, being someone who's been around since 2002, 2003 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right, moving on. What was your first mod, and how did you get the idea for it?
And that's easy. My first mod, which I'm fairly sure is going to be my last mod as well, is my house, Pegasus Estate. And the idea for it, originally I remember posting on the Planet Elder Scrolls forum, where I was describing the sort of house I would love to see with a place for everything and NPCs that do things. Essentially, I was asking if there was such a house or if anyone would make it. And the one answer I got was that if I wanted a house like that, I should make it myself. And well, that was a pretty good idea. So that's how it got started.
Well, speaking of that, you just recently started that project back up again, didn't you?
Yes, because I started with it and then I added things, and when I was ready to release the first version, that was, I don't know, 2-3 years ago at least. And then it was more about, fixing bugs and finding little mistakes, which is a lot less interesting. And then I moved, and then I changed computers. So I sort of moved on to other things. And then one day, I don't know. Oh, yes, I do know. I was playing Skyrim. I was super excited. I got the Dragonborn DLC because finally I was going to go back to Souls time. And I got there. I was like a kid in a candy store. And after a short while, I just stopped Skyrim and I had to play Morrowind again. So that's how I got back to it. But it's been, yes, an ongoing project for years.
Was it difficult to come back to such a detailed project and maintain the same level of enthusiasm as you did originally?
No, it really wasn't. The hardest bit was to realize that I did not have it on my computer anymore. I had to download one of my files from I don't remember when, and I had to fix things that I know I had already fixed. So that was very annoying. I went through all my PMs from people who had sent me messages about problems. I went through the thread again, but I was very happy to do that. The second thing that was the hardest was to try and not add new features. I failed. I couldn't help it. I just have to add new things.
So you'd say that Pegasus Estate has had a lot of feature creep with it?
Yes, it does have many things. It has a place for everything. I wanted that. First, the NPCs were going to have, the basic services. One would barter, one would have enchanting services. And then I was like, oh, but they really should be holding things. So that's how I created the first few items for Hold It. And then I wanted them to actually offer services. So that's when I got into creating dialogues. And then I wanted paintings. So that's how I created another mod with paintings. And then I wanted containers. Like everything I've made, I think, stems from Pegasus Estate. So from just wanting a house that looked pretty and had a place for everything. I think every room has a scripted features. Some of them are fairly useless, like a fireplace, and you could start the fire or douse the flames. But yeah, so lots of features from the useless one to the more useful one, like there's a display, scripted display for every weapon. The library, I did not do that. It was a modest resource. It's lots of features. I think if I start telling you about it, I just won't stop. So, but lots of things, yes, and modders resources as well, because they're just too beautiful. Then I added my own. I got lots of help with the scripts, especially at first, because I knew nothing whatsoever. Lots of things, yeah.
Oh, that all sounds very complicated, and I was noticing as you were mentioning some of the things that you've added. It's like I have a list of your mods here, and it seems like quite a few of them are a result of this project.
Completely. Most of them, to be honest, with the exception of a bard's life. That was just because I love playing a bard, and I felt there was not enough in the game for that. But otherwise, yeah, it's all because of the house.
Speaking of a bard's life, I remember you mentioned on the forums that you were working on a new version of that.
Yep, adding yet new features to it. At first, I just wanted to do a few changes, make it prettier here and there. And then I got carried away again. So the last thing I'm doing, you get to choose to be a bard, but then you can specialize. This is I took my inspiration from the Baldur's Gate game, D&D in general. So you have those kits. So depending on the type of bard you want to be, you have access to some songs and spell effects. And I also want to add quests, because there's that thing that you keep building and add features to. So now the NPCs have a few quests, and the last thing I came up with, oh yes, you have a songbook, and as you find songs, you add them to your songbook, and those give you powers. So yeah, yet another project that just keeps growing.
Well, I think a lot of modders have experience with these types of projects that just grow way out of proportion.
Mm-hmm. Especially with a bard's life, all I wanted was to be able to hold the lute, and that would inspire my companions, like in the D&D games, and yeah, blew out of proportions a little bit.
So I'm kind of curious. It sounds like you start a lot of large projects. So what draws you to modding video games in particular?
I think, like a lot of modders, it's just the endless possibilities, especially with new resources being created and the tools that we have. There's very little that cannot be done as long as you have the drive and the skill, I guess. So yeah, endless possibilities. And then the world of Morrowind is quite inspiring. So you put the two of them together and voila.
Now, this is just a bit of a random question. Do you ever think you'll be completely free of modding, or is this something you can see yourself doing off and on for many years to come?
Definitely, that's what like Morrowind. I think you always come back to it, even if you stop modding it, even if you stop playing it. I don't know, you get back to it eventually, if only to see what's new, what people are doing these days. So yes, I do see myself with Morrowind in my life for many years to come. I don't think that any game, including the Elder Scrolls game, can ever be the same as Morrowind, simply.
So, after Oblivion and Skyrim, have you done any mods for them, or is it just Morrowind?
I did mod Oblivion, a house, surprisingly. But I didn't play Oblivion that much. I thought it was too pretty, like colorful. It was not the same as Skyrim. I did not even try to mod simply because very quickly we had access to lots and lots and lots of mods, and I didn't think I could do better without learning a lot. And still, I don't get as inspired with other mods as I do with Morrowind.
You know, it's funny that you should mention that, because that's sort of been my experience with Skyrim in particular as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm really happy to see that a lot of new Morrowind modders come from Skyrim. And it sort of comforts me in the fact that I'm not crazy for liking, a very old game, while there's games that are in many respects better. And yet people come to Morrowind even after playing games like Skyrim, which I really liked. I think my Steam counts like 900 hours of Skyrim, which is quite a bit. But yeah, Morrowind is special.
It truly is. It has probably the greatest lasting appeal of any RPG I've really seen in the last decade and a half.
I think so as well.
Now, you mentioned Baldur's Gate earlier. Have you been influenced by any other non-Elder Scrolls games when you mod?
Besides D&D games, the only one that comes to mind is Magic the Gathering. When I made my Morrowind trading card, that's what I had in mind. I couldn't create something as complex as Magic the Gathering, but that was the inspiration behind it. Yeah.
Now, speaking of Morrowind trading cards, I noticed after we did the showcase episode of that, I think that was a couple months ago, that there was a Oblivion mod by with a similar feature. Did you get any ideas from that?
I had my idea on my own, but then when I saw the Oblivion one, I did play it, and oh my god, it was so beautiful. It made me feel a little ashamed of my mod and my textures that I just did very quickly. The Oblivion one is beautiful. The cards, you get to zoom in and zoom out. Yeah, I've seen it, and I think it was really, really quite amazing.
It almost sounds like you're tempted to add more features to it, if you don't mind my saying so.
Um, I had ideas for more packs of cards. The thing is, you asked me if it was easy to get back to Pegasus Estate. No problem, I know it by heart. Morrowind Trading Card is all about dialogues. Like, when I look at the dialogue, I can't go back into it. And simply every time you trade the card, there are so many random answers for every answer you make. It was quite a puzzle. I don't want to do it again. So even if I'm tempted, I'm not going to do it. And I have so many other projects. I think I should concentrate on releasing the mods that I'm currently working on, and then maybe update some other mods.
Now, do you do any planning before you start a mod? I know with Pegasus Estate, you mentioned you had to go back and reread the thread and private messages.
I do have piles of notepads with ideas and then things to add. Usually when I have an idea for a mod, I would take a few new pages for that. And as I play the game, or recently as I watched the showcases on Saturday, and there's always a couple of mods I know I'm going to want to try, or a couple of ideas that I would have just looking at the modders resource, for example. Then I would just add those ideas, and it's only when I open the construction set that I start putting things together and see if that would work, and then I would add more ideas. When I did A Bard's Life, for example, I knew what I wanted to do, but then I had to look what sort of resources were available, if there were models for instruments, if there was anything at all similar to what I was going to do, because there's no point doing the same thing. So then I would look at mods that are connected with what I'm trying to do, and then get going. My favorite thing, I think, besides making houses, is to think of a character that I want to play, say a bard, and imagine everything I would like to do as a bard, and then see if there's a mod that does that, or if there's a resource that would be useful, and then really get building and scripting a little bit and putting things together.
Now, it's funny you should mention all those notepad documents with ideas. I have sort of a similar problem. I have a hard drive full of notepad ideas. Do you ever find that it becomes a little unmanageable?
No, because I'm old-fashioned in that way. I have actual notepads. I like to write my ideas and cross things out. So I do have a different notepad or exercise book for every mod I've made, because I know it's going to grow and I know it's never going to fit on a single page. So no, I have them all together and they look pretty lined up on my shelf. So it's all right. It does get a bit crazy when I have 5 or 6 different projects, which might be the case now. I'm not counting anymore. No, it's reasonably tidy.
Oh, that sounds very organized. I wish I was that neat.
I mentioned the showcases that you've been producing for us. I actually have my pen and paper ready every Saturday, because I know there's going to be the name of a mod or an idea that I'm going to have. So I'm there, I'm ready. I have my latte on one side and pen and paper on the other side.
So, this is sort of moving on. Do you listen to any music while you mod? And if so, what is it in particular that you like to listen to?
If I have some music, usually I would listen to podcasts, those by Tiesto or Avicii. Lots of music, very little talking. I don't really need to listen to it, and it's, upbeat. So yeah, that would be what I listen to.
Now, since you do a lot of large projects with some really complicated scripting, it sounds like, if you could make a single change to the capabilities of the construction set, what would it be?
Without hesitation, I would like to have better tools to check for errors, starting with the simple typos, because I make loads of this in the dialog window, but also in the script window. Like, it would compile a script that is not going to work because of a comma or a space or one of those things. Better tools to check for errors in the construction set would be really nice.
Yeah, that's something I've come across as well. It takes a lot of manually going through everything to find where an error exists, or where a spelling mistake, grammar mistake. Sometimes they've multiplied over time too.
Absolutely, and then the more you look at what you've typed, less you see the mistakes, and yeah.
Now, this is just something I've noticed, but a lot of the mods you released over the years seem to focus a lot on NPC detail, in particular, showing what occupation an NPC is by what they're carrying. Mods like Staff Agency, Hold It, Adventurers Backpacks, and your most recent release, which I believe was the other week, Farmers and Miners, they all seem to have this in common. Is there something in particular you're trying to set out to achieve with these mods?
It's just I like the world to look quite realistic, and to have those NPCs standing in the middle of town day in and day out is not very realistic. And Hold It, I needed the items for my house, but also at the time I was playing with the less generic NPCs, and they all had a story. And I thought, but that's stupid. He's telling me he's a fisherman and he's not even next to the water and he doesn't have a fishing rod or anything. So I'm just trying to make things look more realistic. And then I'm very much into role playing for my character. But then I thought if my character gets to have a backstory and a job and a specialty, NPCs should also have something.
Now, that's sort of something that was introduced more in the recent Elder Scrolls games. Would you say that's influenced you in any way?
Uh, hold it, actually. Uh, I think I released the first version even before Oblivion. And in Oblivion, you have I remember the alchemist that would suddenly produce a mortar, it was. So I'm glad that the newer games, they really have the animations but it's not really the original influence. That's something that I wanted in my game before.
Alright, and is there any particular mod that you're most happy with that you've released so far? Not, I guess Pegasus Estate is still one you're working on. So out of the ones you've released...
I was gonna say the day I released, a proper version, I would definitely be very proud that day. Otherwise, I do have a special feeling when I see that my resources containers in particular that is used in another mod. It's a special feeling. I think it's maybe even nicer than I release a mod and people tell me that they like the mod for XY reason. To see my resources used, that's a special feeling. And otherwise, it's not really a matter of pride, but I'm quite surprised by the success, I guess, of Hold It. At first, it was going to be a few items for my own use, and I think now it's the most successful of all my mods. So I was a bit surprised by that.
Speaking of containers, it really is quite a useful resource, and I've noticed it's been popping up in a lot more newer mods lately, like Crank Gorilla's mods. There was a new modder that just released a house mod about a week or two ago, which had containers in it, and it was great to see those in use because they are so very useful for interior design purposes.
And I've updated a couple of weeks ago, I think. But yeah, I like containers. Even though it doesn't, it's not one of those popular mods, but I like it.
Is there anything you would love to see in-game, but don't really have the time to do yourself?
To be honest, it's not really a matter of time. I mean, I wish I had more time to mod. It's not that I don't have the time to do it myself. I just don't have the skill or the talent for it. Like I see amazing models and textures. Yeah, I just wouldn't be able to do anything like that. So I'm really glad that other modders, can do that so I can enjoy it in my game.
Going into that, if you had absolutely no constraints holding you back, besides the capabilities of the construction set and modeler programs, I suppose, what mod would you most like to make?
To be honest, my mods, they're not really that complicated. They may be large in scope, but they're not complicated. And I don't know enough about scripting, for example, to feel that the construction set is holding me back. So I never felt, I couldn't mod because the construction set or any third-party program was not good enough. However, which mod I would like most to make, it would be about gameplay. I would love to see. I mean, if someone else wants to do it, I'm fine with it. But something like my Bard mod, like to have mods where your gameplay is going to be completely different based on the character you want to play. Obviously, already in the game as it is, playing a warrior or a mage or a thief is very different. But yeah, special gameplays for the type of character you want to play. Like a druid. I'd like to play a druid, but there's no mod for that, so maybe I'm gonna have to think about that.
So that would be more profession stylized gameplay for each type of class,
Yes.
sort of like the mod we just featured. I think it was this last week. Class abilities. You know, the one that sort of it changes
Which
up
one?
the gameplay. Class abilities. It sort of changes up the gameplay a little bit when you
Oh,
start.
I love that one. I love that one. Yeah. Yeah. Like something like that. And yeah, gameplay and role playing. That's the sort of mods I like the most.
Now, a lot of your mods feature new models and textures. Is there a particular program you like to use for those?
Well, first I think I have to confess. I think new models is it's a big word. So all I can do is take a mesh and another one and put them together and stretch it and rotate it and scale it. That's about all I can do. So I use Nivscope because it's simple. I was able to learn that quite quickly. And textures, I don't really do textures, but I do use GIMP for icons, for example. I prefer it over Photoshop because it's open source and free. So that's a plus.
So would you recommend Nifscope as a good beginner's tool for working with models?
Yeah, definitely. It really wasn't that hard to learn, and there's quite a bit of documentation on it as well. So it's nice. I haven't tried the other programs. There's Max 3D, I think, but that's something too big for my shoes, I think.
Now, moving on, what do you think of OpenMorrowind? I know you said you don't really use the full scripting capabilities of Morrowind as it is, but do you think that in the future you might make OpenMorrowind only mods, or would you be focusing more on mods that are compatible with both versions of the engine?
Um, I think Open Morrowind is very, very exciting. But I have to be honest with you, I have no idea what it would imply to make an Open Morrowind mod only. I don't know how different that would be from a regular mod. And it is my understanding that most regular mods are compatible with Open Morrowind. So I think I would keep doing what I know, and then see, maybe I will learn about that. But for now, I won't until Open Morrowind is released, and I don't know. I'm very excited about it. I don't want to get too excited about it because then I'm gonna get impatient, and that's not good. But both engines would be ideal, definitely.
Yeah, I think there's been some confusion, I think, out there that people don't realize that all mods are essentially Open Morrowind compatible to begin with.
That my understanding was that as long as they do not require MGE, for example, then they should be compatible.
Yeah, I don't know if it works with, what is it, the Morrowind scripting extender? That's the one I'm not sure on.
I'm gonna guess not, but again, I don't know how to script for that, so not a problem.
Are there any mods or modders currently in the community that really have your attention?
Well, there's too many to name, really. I would mention Superstar. I just love the fact that she can do everything: models, textures, dialogue, scripts, everything. So I really, really admire that. For the same reason, I loved Corana, who's not in the marauding scene anymore, but I loved everything she did as well. So yeah.
Oh yes, Superstore has some really, really great mods out there. I just played Eurus Legacy for the first time for that showcase a month ago or so, and it was really impressive just how many different areas that she has excelled in.
Exactly.
Going into that, are there any mods you look at and think, I wish I made that?
No, it's more of a matter of thinking, I wish I could make that. Otherwise, I'm just really, really happy that someone produced something I was not able to.
Sort of switching tracks, what do you think
Mm-hmm.
about the other Elder Scrolls games like Oblivion, Skyrim? I mentioned you mentioned that you played a lot of Skyrim, 900 hours or so. So, what do you think of those games in
Mm-hmm.
comparison with Morrowind?
I haven't played Arena, but I did play Daggerfall quite a bit. I loved the character creation. Like thinking of my character and how I'm gonna play is my favorite thing about any role-playing game, I think. So I really loved that, and I like the fact that it was quite challenging. Um, Oblivion, I was a little disappointed because it was after Morrowind, and I was so excited about Morrowind. I was expecting even better. It was a good game, though. I did play it quite a bit as well. Skyrim, loved it. I did play the Elder Scrolls Online, and I thought they did a really good job. I mean, it has all the elements you would expect of a MMORPG, and they did manage to include elements of the Elder Scrolls world. So I thought they did a rather good job. But really, my heart is with Morrowind.
That's something I get the impression of from a lot of Morrowind modders is that, Morrowind is where the heart is, and the other Elder Scrolls are places where you can play in like a large playground.
Exactly.
Now, I may have answered my own question there. What do you think makes the Morrowind modding community so vibrant after more than a decade?
Uh, well, first, I think credit where credit is due is the fact that the game is so unique and the lore and the atmosphere. And then, yes, most people are very passionate about it. And what I really like about the community is its maturity. It's people that have played the game for a long time usually, and it's a very mature community. I like it. Everyone is really helpful. You do get feedback, positive or negative, but it's always constructive. There's always something new. So yeah, the fact that people in the community are passionate about it and quite mature as well.
Since you mentioned it, the Morrowind modding community does often seem pretty positive, more upbeat, not quite the same trollish nature of a lot of the communities on the internet out there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't think I remember seeing a post on the forum, with someone trolling or being insulting or, just plain stupid. So, yeah.
Do you think there's anything the Morrowind modding community should be doing in order to continue to expand and grow in the coming years?
Well, first of all, you're doing a lot for the community, so thank you for that. And besides that, I think we should get more people over the forums, the official forum or Great House Fligerty, for example. I feel most of the traffic happens on the Nexus, but it's not really a place for sharing ideas, I guess. So get more people over the forum. That's where the community is really live.
Yeah, I've noticed this in particular is that you have a lot of new mods on Morrowind Nexus, but if you go into the Morrowind forum section of the Nexus, there's not really a whole lot of idea threads, where if you go over to the official forums, you get a lot more of that.
Hmm. I don't think I've ever been on the Nexus forums, or maybe the first time when I registered and I, set up my account. But other than that, I don't know. The Nexus is a big bank where you find mods, but not a place for discussion, which is a shame. But then again, I really like the official forum, so I don't really feel like moving.
Now, I asked this in the last interview because it's something that sort of came up with the Future of Morrowind discussions back in July. I think it was first mentioned by Mike and Ike, and I was curious, do you think modders should be doing more to promote and advertise their works? Or should they be letting the community keep doing what it's always done, and which depends largely on word of mouth by players?
I feel that, when you have a thread, again, in the official forums where you share your idea, you share your progress, and then you have a thread to release your mod, and you give you put there links for screenshots, maybe videos. I think this is really all that. First of all, that's all I've ever really done. I don't think I've really, publicized my mods. You have your release threads. You have nice screenshots so people have an idea what you're working on. I don't feel it's the community's job to make mods known. However, it is the community's not job, it's not a good word, but to share ideas, to help people who are currently working on a mod, if only to say, hey, you know what, maybe you could add this, or I thought that was awkward. Helping people out, sharing. This is it, sharing. And then if your mod ever is released and doesn't stay a work in progress for 10 years or so, speaking from experience, I think your work is done.
So you don't think any extra effort should go into, putting the extra word out there about your mod? You should just let people discover it?
They will discover it if they're, having a look on the Nexus, on the forums. I still have a channel with the Pegasus Estate videos, for example. So they are there. Then no, besides talking about it on the forum or my friends here, I can't say I've been trying hard to make my mods known. However, I really do like to comment on what people are doing. So more talk about other people's mods, I think, is important.
Yes, the community does rely a lot on constructive feedback with each other's mods, which is always a good thing.
It really is good, and the help you get is just wonderful. A couple of days ago, I had a question about a companion dying on me all the time, and a day later, I had a couple of suggestions which I tried, and it seems to be working so far. I see people asking about, tools or a script, and they always get the help, always.
Now, is there any advice you'd like to give to budding new Morrowind modders out there looking to release their first mod?
Well, come to the official forum would be one, I think. Don't be afraid to ask questions would be the other one. And I think that's where my wisdom stops.
The official forums really does have a lot of support threads for new modders. A lot of basic questions get answered there, and there is the construction set forums, which sometimes those of us who stick more to the Morrowind Modding forums always forget about.
True, I have forgotten about it. I really like the lore forum as well. That's when I need when I wonder how to implement something in the game, and I don't like it to be lore breaking. So that's where I ask question, and these guys know everything there is to know about the Elder Scrolls. So that's very, very helpful as well.
Speaking of lore, I often find myself sticking more to the UESP and Imperial Library. Do you use those as well, in addition to the lore forums?
Yeah, quite often. Simply because sometimes I feel I have an idea about, something, the effect of a spell, or smuggling. I did my research on smuggling for the smuggling cave mod that I'm still working on. So I read everything I could find on smuggling, on illegal goods, and I didn't go on the lore forums, but yes, the unofficial Elder Scroll pages, very helpful as well. I used that also for my, which one was it? The Morrowind trading cards, because there's a card for every single creature. So that's where I got all the information.
Speaking of Morrowind trading cards again, I never could find every unique location card. Some of those are very well hidden.
They're visible. To be honest, since I made the mod, I do have it in my mod list. I haven't found all of them, and I'm so glad I have forgotten where I put them. So I get to discover that part. But they're there. I mean, I might have a look in the CS to find out where they are, but that would ruin the surprise for myself as well.
Now, finally, is there anyone in the community you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, definitely. Two people in particular. The first one is Craig, Crazy Craigie, who is still crazy, apparently. He's been around as long as I can remember, and with every project I've had, he's always been very helpful, had loads of ideas and feedback, corrected all my typos in Pegasus Estate, reminded me 5 times how to spell the name of mushrooms. So a huge thank you for that. And the second person is Loki-chan as well, who has always been very supportive, and she's always been there, and she was the source of lots of ideas and lots of inspiration.
Alright, now that's pretty much all I have, so thanks for agreeing to do this interview again. It has been a pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me as well.
Alright, now that concludes our interview with Danae. It was very informative, I hope so. Hopefully you do as well. Next week we have an interview with Brookham's. That will be airing on the 19th of November, so you got that to look forward to. Thanks for watching, and of course listening, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.